It seems to be more over this one.
That's good. It's as good as it gets.
So we're learning the thing, the Dvar Malchus of the Rabbi from Parshas Kisove Toshin Non Aleph. And the learning is taking place in the basic Knesset, Tzedek Be'ir HaKodesh Be'ir Atika Tsfat. And this evening is Lekof Elo, Thursday night, Lekof Elo, Toshin Ein Tev. So, what we're going to do, like we've done, I think, with success in recent Shiurim, will, as it were, sum up the earlier part of the Sikha, and in actual learning will come in a bit towards the second half, which we never used to cover when we did it in the earlier Shiurim, and try and sort of reach some of the final points towards the close of the Sikha. So, Be'ika, this wondrous Sikha from the Rabbi deals with the mitzvah brought at the beginning of this week's Parshas, the mitzvah's Bikurim. The mitzvah of bringing the first fruits of the Shivas Aminim, Shebehem Ishtabeh Eretz, to bring the first fruits to the Beis HaMikdash, albeit with a lot of pomp and splendor. There was a tremendous amount of ceremony and other inyonim connected with the Muvua Barichas in the Mishnah, in Masechet Bikurim, in the Mishnah, and having finally brought the Bikurim with all of the pomp and splendor into the Azara, then the mitzvah included having the fruits in a kli and planting the kli, or putting it down in front of the kohen, who later took the bikurim, and he was the one who actually ate the bikurim were given b'poil mamish to, and they became kedushim. They have a din of kedushas, a mikdash, and kedushas kochim of a certain madrega, and the kohen he eats them. So then begins the mitzvah of what's called vidui of bikurim, or the mitzvah of giving over thanksgiving, the person who bought the bikurim had to say a whole long Parshas bikurim. What he said in front of the Mizbeach in the Beis HaMikdash, giving thanks to the Eibster for having given him the the fruits of the land, v'chulu v'chulu, as brought down by Riches. So the point that the Rabbi opens the whole Sikha is that even though the mitzvah of Bikurim looks to be a mitzvah like all the other mitzvahs in the Torah, if we look at it a bit more closely, then it seems to have a very general quality, and it precisely occurs in this Parshas Kisove, which sums up a lot of things when it gets to the whole generality of Torah mitzvahs, and describes the bris that Hashem is making with the Jewish people on the whole of Yiddishkeit, the Aricha. And Rashi brings down that you have to see all the mitzvahs like as if they were new, as if you, every time we learn that from the whole thing of Bikurim and the statements made by Hashem immediately following the mitzvah of Bikurim, which indicates that the mitzvah of Bikurim is linked with the Klolos Kabbalah Sabris on the part of the Jewish people, and they're entering into the bris with a Kodesh Baruch Hu on the whole of Torah mitzvah. And therefore later, towards the end of the Parsha, we have the famous, when I say famous, we have the Teichachol, but the whole inner of the Teichachol is part of the whole Shiur Sabris with the Jewish people, saying that if Chas v'Sholem you won't keep the whole thing, then this is what could result from the same. And even though Al-Pi Pnimiyos Ha'inyan, those are all very, very high in Yonim Avolein, Kra, Yitzim, Midei Pshutei, in the simple terms, that's all part of what we would call the Olis Habris, that it could like the warnings and the rebukals of the actual bris. And like he sums up at the end of the Teichachah, he says, Eila Divra Habris, Asher Koras Hashem, I'm sure that's the lesson at the Siyum of the Parsha. So from that we see that the whole Parsha is concerned with the general Kabbalah of the whole Torah and the entry into a bris, that is called a covenant, which is binding on both sides, Kaviyachol, over particularly to the Jewish people, to their commitment to the whole union of Torah mitzvahs by equality. And what leads into that is the mitzvah of Bikurim, right? It all begins with the mitzvah of Bikurim. And we see that there's a connection with that, all the general things in reference to the bris, that Rashi brings it, that after the Vidui Maiseres, even though the Vidui Maiseres is another mitzvah apart from Bikurim, the Torah says, Hayom Maseh, you're entering into a bris with it. And Rashi says that every year when people came with the Bikurim, there went out a bas kol, very clear, a divine voice. And it's much more that divine voice was talking to each individual that brought the Bikurim. It's not just a general thing one time, but each individual that brought his Bikurim, he was there that this bas kol, as a word, spoke to him. Now, I'm not sure if everybody heard the bas kol. I'm not sure about that particular part of it. But even if he didn't hear it, he knew that that's what was happening. As in Cain, we see that the onward flow that begins the whole idea of the bris is connected backwards with the Inyan of Bikurim, even though in the middle it actually mentions another mitzvah called Vidui Maiseres. So we see that there's a very essential connection between the mitzvah of the Bikurim and all that goes on, and all that flows on afterwards. And that tends to indicate a close, a very, very general content and inner containing inside the mitzvah of Bikurim with the whole klolos ayadis and the whole klolos of the Kabbalah Satira. And not only the Kabbalah Satira, but the entry into the bris with Hashem, that if you won't keep the Torah, then Cholila, there might be, you know, how do you call it, what we call results in the form of schar, chas v'sholem. Although it's a very clolistic and earnest inyan, but it's all begun by the mitzvah of Bikur. So, in a general way, the Rebbe begins with a very fascinating idea, and that is that it's, if we look carefully at what a Yid says when he brings the Bikurim, is that he gives thanks to Kodesh Baruch Hu for having given him the land. First of all, for taking us out of Mitzrayim, which was a terrible situation as he brings it. And then he brings before that, we had a miser with Laban, you know, Arami over the Avi. Yeah, Laban would have destroyed everything before the Jewish people got going. He would have destroyed Yaakov Avinu. And Mela, we wouldn't have got anywhere. We wouldn't have started. And then the Mitzrayim continued on with that whole thing. And yet, nonetheless, Hashem saved us miraculously, yeah, from the Mitzrayim. That's one thing that we give a thanks to Hashem. Then we thank Him for having brought us to Eretz Yisrael, for having given us the land, and this is the produce of the land. So the Rebbe says it's a very basic thing in Yiddishkeit that you must know to give thanks to the Eibishter. And the Rabbi Mamish emphasizes it very, very strongly that you must be accustomed the whole time to give thanks to Hashem, to thank Him for all the good that He does with you the whole time. And that doesn't only include all the fruits and the gashmistic things that He does for you, but also the things that He does for you on a higher level in Rukniyas, V'chulu. And the Rebbe said if we examine our prayers and our Avodas Hashem during the day, a whole percentage of these prayers is based on this whole idea of thanksgiving to the Eibishter, to the point that when you wake up in the morning, before you even make Negawasa, then the first thing you say is Moedia Nilafa, that you gave me back my soul and you give me the koyah to start a new day. So the truth is that Moedia Ani has got all sorts of biurim alpi pnima saying over ein inyan yotzim midei pshutei, the simple pshat of Moedia Ani means I thank you, Hashem. Yeah. So the Rebbe said it begins, and if we examine all the brachas that we made from Birchas HaShachar and all the other prayers, and even in Psukim the Zimra and later in Birchas Krishma, every few psukim we're thanking Hashem. So the Rebbe said that's a tremendous, important inyan in the whole yachas of a nivra to Kodesh Baruch Hu, is that the inyan of thanksgiving. And just by the way, it's very interesting, up at this time, I was down in Chabad. When was it? I already forget which day it was. Last week. When was it?
Last Wednesday.
Last week, yeah. I was down at Chabad and I went into my old office. The key to my office still works, and I can go. And the amazing thing is that all my sforim that I had in the office are still there, untouched, yeah. And I can't figure why they haven't moved them out somewhere away. But anyway, they didn't. So I brought two sforim. I I didn't have the car and the time to take orders. So we didn't have any place in the car anyway. But I took, I have a copy that I once bought of the Chidushei HaRashba. Now, the Rashba is one of the great early Rishonim, the Rabbeinu Shlomo ben Rome Edras. And he was he was very shortly after the Rambam, between like the Rambam and the Rosh, and he's one of the big Rishonim on the Gemaras and everything. On the whole of Shas, he's got Chidushim. But this is a very special 2-volume thing with Mari Makoimes and reprinting, and I bought it years ago, but it's very, very beautiful. So at the beginning of all these Chidushim, I didn't know that. He wrote a long poem to Hashem. Oh, but it's very long. It's not just a few things. It's a long, very, very tremendously learned usage of Rosh Kodesh. All these unbelievable expressions. They all link one into the other. They go. It's mamish, absolutely mind-boggling. So there's some big rock, the Meshach Torahs. And he wrote a pirush on this prayer. He wrote a long prayer. I didn't know this till I bought the Sefer, and he laid that to me. Said, it's a beautiful pirush at this great from the early Gafne. He was around about the time of the tour, but the tour is the first of the Achronim. Around about that. And it's just absolutely mind-boggling what he finds in the Rishonos of this prayer, how he indicates that the Rishonim, they spoke with divine. There's no way out of it. You can't say that they just said things. It's like a form of Ruach HaKodesh, Goloi. Everything the Rishonim. Rashi and the Rambam, he says it about all of them. So the other day, whatever, I forget which day it was, I took a careful look at this, since we bought it, especially back from Kwachabat, I took a special look at this poem. First of all, it's very long and very, like I said, but a big percentage of it, a very large percentage of it, is that he's thanking HaKadosh Baruch Hu for all that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has done for him, but just not just done, a huge arichas, and he says, just the fact that I'm able to breathe and I'm able to do everything, and, I thank Hashem for every breath, and he said, I've been able to learn Torah, and I've been able to do this, and I've been able to do that, and I'm doing this, and I'm going here, and I go, but it's length, it's just a couple of words, and I thank Hashem, and I give it just keeps going on, and he's thanking Hashem that he gives a class, and he gave class, he never had any time for class during the day, and yet he used to take a walk for half an hour every day. He walked around. And he was a doctor, he was like the Rambam. He was a very big doctor. And he told me them, and he wrote thousands of responses. What do you call them? Thousands, he wrote, the Rabbi. So, what happens is that a large part of this prayer is thanksgiving over. It's amazing in all the details and the way he writes it in this amazing Russian Kodesh, and the way it all sort of flows and interlinks with the massivity of this poem. The whole poem covers about 50 pages with this pirush, huge, and this is one of the main themes. And then I pick up the sefer from the I see what the Rebbe said. You see, this is an essential thing, and great people, the greater they were in Torah, the more they understood it. You have to thank Hashem for for every minute thing that happens to you, you have to be able to give a thanksgiving to Hashem. And that's an essential part. And it's like if you can't do that, you're missing out the whole, as it were, yachas between you and Hashem. Yeah. So therefore, the Rebbe says, Im Kain, why is Bikurim such a general thing? Because Bikurim is like an expression of your thanksgiving. And therefore it's brought down in the Sefer HaChinuch, the Sefer HaChinuch, right, that you've been working on your field and you've been struggling and you've been, watering the plants and dealing with them, the trees and they grow, and this is months of struggle and intense effort on the part of the owner of the field. Then all of a sudden he walks into the field and he sees the first fruits, So what would the normal reaction of a person be? Oh, wow, look at, this is the fruits of my work, wow. No, so the Sefer Chinuch says, no, exactly the opposite. You say, oh, this is Hashem. The whole field belongs to Hashem. I belong to Hashem. He's just letting me have this field for whatever reason, to him. So what am I supposed to do with the first fruit? I have to give them to him. Yeah, that's what the Sefer Chinuch writes. It's like almost like a fight or a dialogue of the owner of a person. Yeah, with the Avishta and the field, when he first walks in, sees the first fruits, coming out. So Rashi brings it down. What do you have to do? You have to tie a piece of gemi. Gemi means like rubber or something on the fruit. That's going to be the first fruit. That's going to go to Yerushalayim. That's not yours. That's going to Yerushalayim. Then, once you've done that, then you can possibly say that the fruits have a certain relation to you. So the Rebbe said this is a very general inyan in the whole inyan for Yiddishkeit. It's very important, I think, that I spent a few moments stressing just how that's just how important that is. We have to accustom ourselves to thanking Hashem, And just now before we came out, I sat down to have a little bit of supper, I got to put a bit of fuel in the tank, So I thought to myself, how much do I have to thank Hashem that I got this on the table, We just take it for granted, just come to the table, sit down. What a miracle this is, that I'm able to come down the stairs and sit at the table. My Robinson brings me it's just how miraculous that really is. What am I? Who says, what am I worth? And yet, nonetheless, I got it in front of me. How much we have to give a thanksgiving to Hashem. And it's a very profound inyan. And I saw this poem from the Rashba. I just went out of my cave. It's just unbelievable. It's much the work of a genius. It's just unbelievable. The whole thing. Your eyes just jump out of your head. And he had enough time, to write this poem. With all the Kiddushim that he wrote on the whole Shas. You realize what the whole Shas is? And people didn't realize that he also wrote on the Agadah, Most of the great Meforshim, when you want to write only about the Marshur, the Marshur is generations, tens of generations later. As a Marshur, he wrote on the Agadah. But the great Rishonim, B'der Klal, they didn't write on the Agadah. He's got on the Agadah also the Rashba. And they found that only recently, that's one of the reasons why I bought this, because it's got his Pirush on the Agadah also. That wasn't there all the generations. So the Rebbe says, in Cain, what is the chiddush of the Inufim Bikurim? So the Rebbe said that normally, when you give thanksgiving to Hashem, it's in Machshava, and it reaches maybe Dvar, yeah, or it should reach Dvar. It should come into Dvar. And therefore, in our prayers, yeah, we mention it, and it's a very eager thing in all of our prayers. He said, that's not enough. We see that in Bikurim, it's not enough. You can give thanksgiving to Hashem, but you didn't perform the mitzvah of Bikurim. What do you have to do? You have to go to a whole tirah. You got to get them all ready, and you got to get them in a cart, and you got to decorate the. They used to have oxen pulling the carts, and you were supposed to, according to the Mishnah, you were supposed to dress up the oxen. Yeah, they used to put decorations on the horns of the oxen, and people who saw them coming, it was a mitzvah. It was a mitzvah to go out and cheer them on, and how do you call it, greet them with. Yeah, and the Alter brings it in Tanya, Perek Memvov. The Alter brings that if you're in the middle of your work, and we know how serious, you're not allowed to interrupt somebody, a poyo that's doing his work. You shouldn't interrupt him because that's money that you're taking away from the work of the balabog. Nonetheless, if a poyo is in the middle, he sees the people coming with the bikurim. And almost, believe me, he coming with the bikurim, yeah, then everybody has to go out, and even though they're losing money for the balabas, or let's say he's a balabas himself, he's losing money, but he has to go to it. Yeah. He has to go greet these people with cheers and with song and with all. It was a huge, sort of, how do you call it, in Yiddish, a trapsk, how do you call it, a ceremony, a big thing, That's how it worked. So the Rebbe said, what do we see from that? That it's not enough to show thanksgiving just in Machshava, even in Dvar, but you got to do something. You got to get yourself together, you got to put it all together, and you got to go up to Yerushalayim with the oxen and with a cart and with a ganze. It's a very, very big, unusual tircha on the part of the man. A tircha, masid, which indicates that genuine thanksgiving is not only just in thought, even in Dvar. Once you've done the Maisa and you get into the base of Midah, then you say something. Then you give it out in Dvar. Oh, first of all, it's going to be, how do the Chassidim say, Poil Mami? And Derech, that's why we're asking of the Eberstadt right now. We're asking for Poil Mami. Of a male, if we give Poil Mami, then Hashem will give us Poil Mami. But that's what we see here. So it's Mami, a pillar plus how the Rebbe goes into this whole Indian. It's Mami, an amazing thing. So that's like the general theme that the Rebbe said at the beginning. However, the Rebbe says that there's as it were, a deeper involvement, a deeper implication in this whole mitzvah of the Bikur. And that is that it's brought down in the Zohar Kodesh, in a place, on a pasuk in Hosea, in the Novi Hosea, where he says that Hashem looks at the Jewish people like the first fruits of a fig tree. By the way, figs are very good. Yeah, they're one of the Shivas of Minna. They're very special. So the Yidden look seen by Hashem as the B'choiro V'Ta'eno, like the first fruits of one of the best trees of them all. Yeah, the fig tree. So ask yourself the question, what does he mean with that? What is this question? Never mind. We go back now to a Rashi at the beginning of I notice that I'm putting everybody to sleep. That's, so that's a good thing that I'm able to help people have a baby, a babysitting slow. But this particular minute, I would have thought. So the Rebbe said that indicates something very special about the Yidden. Rashi brings right at the beginning of the Torah, of his Pirush on the Torah, Rashi says that Bereshis, base ratios, that the word Beresh is like base ratios. And Rashi says there are two first things. What for them, Hashem created the whole world. And the word Bereshis is like a base saying for the sake of, Bereshis, for the sake of the ratios. Yeah. So what are the two ratios? One is Torah and one is Yisrael. One is Torah, one is... But the whole world was created for those two things. Torah and Yid. In other words, the whole rest of the world, if you think about it, the whole rest of the creation, apart from Torah and Yid, is just a MTI, how to call it? It's like a medium in order to get to Torah and Yisrael, which means that the whole world is only a sort of a, how do you call it? Like a transitory medium for the sake of something much more lasting and something much more pneumius, va'atzmius, and that's the Yidden and Torah. So when you think about it, it's a pedal, yeah. But the whole creation, well, for the sake of, the Yidden, for Yidden, the whole creation, Hashem made all the universe only for that reason, for you. And the Rebbe said it doesn't mean just the Jewish people as a whole, but it means each and every individual here. So how do I know that? Maybe it only means like in general. Yeah. So there's once again a Mishnah in Masechta Sanhedrin towards the end of the third period in Sanhedrin, but the Mishnah says that Chayav Odom Loimam B'Shvili Nivra Ha'olam, that a man is obliged to say that the world was created for him. So the great Mephoshim come along over there, and they say to us that, the Mishnah, the way it's written, B'Shvili Nivra Ha'olam, you can understand, for me the whole world was created. Let me cash in, I'll have a good time. The world's for me. I'm an important individual. This doesn't upset. No, Bishvili, Nivra Ha'olam means the whole world was created for you, meaning that you are the one that's going to carry out what the world was created for. If you don't do what you're supposed to do, then the world's not going to reach its top. You follow? And Beshvili, Nimta, that's a tremendous, obligation. And the Alter Rebbe brings it in Perik Mem Aleph in Tanya, and the Alter Rebbe points out over there, right there at the beginning, that this is a tremendous, and it's each individual, that if you don't do, that weakens the whole. It's not just we're talking about the cloud. We are talking about the cloud as well, but we're talking about the pride. If you don't do what you're supposed to be doing, because it was all for you, then that weakens the whole. You guys have ever heard the famous cloud in English that the train is only as strong as the weakest link? You know about that, right? If you're not a good link, then you're affecting the whole chain. You're affecting the whole thing. So it's pretty powerful stuff. So that's Rashi, and that's a Mafurish, Mishnah in Masechta Samedra. So the Rebbe says, how do you do this? How do you know what to do? All right, so the whole world is waiting for me, and it's all created for me, and everything is for me. But what am I supposed to be doing? Well, for that reason, Hashem made Torah also the center of the whole case. So Torah and Yid. But if you think about it carefully, which one is, as it were, of those two, which is the most, as it were, central one? Which is the most important one? The most important one is the Yidden. You understand? When they saw, because the Torah was only created to help them to know what they're supposed to be doing. You know? Torah, and therefore there's our Medra, also our Gemara. It's Mashim Masechta Psachim, that the Gemara says, Yisrael, Torah, or Od Kamein Yonim, Kodmu La'olam. They were before the whole world was created. And then the Medra says, Ve'eni Yudea, Eja Mehem Kodmu. But it's interesting to know which one of them was before the other one. Yeah? So the Medra says that I can prove to you that the first one of everything was the Yidden themselves. Yeah? How is that? Because it's written in the Torah, Tzav es b'nei Yisrael, all the mitzvahs, Hashem says to Moshe, you must command the Jewish people. And that's what's written in the Torah. So Kunta said, if there weren't any Jewish people already, I don't know what to command. Yeah? So that means that the Jewish people are already there before the commandments of the Torah, which means that the ultimate, how do you call it, Kedima, and the ultimate inner permanency is the Jewish people. They are like the center of the whole thing. Kunta is that a Yid is like at the center of the whole creation. Yeah? So the Rebbe said that's what a Bikurim is, isn't it? He said that's what Bikurim. Bikurim means the first fruits, the first and ultimate thing. Well, that's why the Yidden are called Bikurim, but they're the purpose of everything. They're like the center, the first. Yeah. So now we begin to get some idea as to why the mitzvah of Bikurim has got such a central place, that all the breath and all the other inyanim and that all connected with the Bikurim. But it's connected with the centrality of the Jewish people and their essentiality to the whole creation. It's a pretty close on the top. So, it says, how do Yidden come to the Torah? How do they get to the Torah? And they go through Matan Torah, yeah? But he said, it has to be the Matan Torah would happen eventually and be given to the Torah be given to the Jewish people. Why? Because the Jewish people are connected up essentially, like we're just learning now, they're connected up essentially with Hashem. The Torah is also connected essentially to Hashem. So if you make a connection with Hashem, and you have an essential connection with Hashem, you're going to meet up somewhere or another with the Yidden and with the Torah. And that's what the Zohar Kodesh says. Yeah, Yisrael, V'Yiraisha, V'Kudshi B'Rihu, Kulachad. The Alter brings it in Tanya, that the Yidden and the Torah and the Eibishter are all one. They're all one thing. The Yidden are the first. The Yidden is Kodma Rekoltova. They're the Yidden. But you meet up with the Yidden. Who do you meet up with? Shalom Aleichem HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You meet up with the Eibishter. Yeah. So what else do you meet up with? You meet up with the Torah. But Hashem says, Torah is all part of me. It's very essential, but it's really for these guys, It's really, what I really meant is these guys. And that's Bitcoin here. That's the whole idea of Harikot, Bitcoin. That's the first fruit. Come on, Mele. It's a pretty amazing picture, when you think about it. And Mamela, it makes sense. Well, Hoya Kisova, what are you doing coming into Eretz Yisrael? What are you coming into Eretz Yisrael for? Why did Hashem bring you into Eretz Yisrael? To indicate that Eretz Yisrael also has a very central part here. That's where the mitzvahs are going to be given to be kept. That's where they're actually going to express themselves down here in the world. That was all for the sake of the Eden. It's all ultimately for the sake of the Eden. The Dvar, when a Yid comes to Eretz Yisrael, he's not just coming home to some sort of a homeland. He's coming to what the essential nature of the whole creation intended for him, right from the very beginning. And therefore we come into Eretz Yisrael to get moving with the whole tachlis of the creation. And that's the in and of the Bikur. So if I had some whiskey here, I would say L'chaim. But I think at this point, even coffee is good. Or L'chaim. L'chaim. That's only me. What we'll do now is we'll come in and we'll learn a passage, Gafne. Although we're now approaching, as it were, that's like the main big hitters of the Sefer. That's like the main big. We're now approaching like further developments on that main end. So we've got at the bottom of 346. You have a heading there, Yisrael b'dagas bikurim gam b'yachas l'Torah. Right. So the Rabbi says, Hadgoshen Eisefes be'inyan, Hadgoshen Eisefes be'inyan, extra, how do you call it, emphasis in this whole matter that we've been talking about. Kayemus b'mikra bikurim. This is all just the general idea of bikurim. Now we have the mitzvah of mikro bikurim. When a person comes into the base of meeting, he has to say the whole nusach, and that's called sometimes vidui bikurim, sometimes it's called mikro bikurim, calling like the saying out. A Parshas, Yeshoima, maybe bikurim, the Parshas that he has to say in front of the kohen when he comes into the base of meeting. And so what does he begin with? Arami Oived Ovi. Arami Oived Ovi is referring to Yaakov Avinu, and Arami is Lovan Arami. Lovan Arami, he wanted to, how he could, wipe out and to destroy. Arami Oived Ovi. Oived from Russian, losing, lost. You're causing him to be lost. Yeah. So that's Lovan with Yaakov Avinu. So Yaakov Avinu apparently didn't get lost. He apparently lived it through. Yeah, but what happened to him? Vayer and Mitzrayim. The next thing was he went down to Mitzrayim. Yeah, it wasn't enough, the whole business with Lovan. Next thing is he went down to Mitzrayim. Now this is all the Mishnah, by the way. This is the Mishnah in Masechta Psochim. And this is what we say on the Lail Seder. We bring this down in the Haggadah Shel Pesach. You're in Mitzrayim. Vayitzein Hashem miMitzrayim, vayiten lanu es ha'oretz ha'to'im. He gave us Eretz Yisrael. And like we pointed out, that Eretz Yisrael is very essential, like medium, and it says, well, the theater where the whole bris is going to take place, the whole Torah, or mitzvah, which is the way that the Yidden are going to carry out their own So he said, Yeshnom Shnei Oifanim, Legali says, Etzem Shal Yisrael. The Rebbe says there are two ways to reveal what is the very essence of the Jewish people. So we pointed out that was Yisrael, Kud Shabriku, Kula Chad. We pointed out that the Yidden and the Eberster are all one. They're mamish, as it were, united with his essence. So he said there are two ways to reveal that, to bring out in a Yid that he is really the Bikurim of the whole creation, and he's one thing mamish with the Eberster. And each Kodma Lakod. So he said the first way, Oivan Echad, Haragio, Ualidea Torah. Why we pointed out that once you get up to that high and you find the Eberster, you find the Yid, and you also find the Torah. You automatically move to the Torah. Of a matter, the Torah is the way down here in this world to carry out the revelation of what it is really all about, which means that if I learn Torah and study Torah properly, I will indicate how I'm really, as it were, the source of the creation in the responsible way. So he said, Lochen, Yeshne Chiur Tamidi, Al Kol Yehudi, Lil my Torah, Bakol Rega Panui. Therefore, you're mechuyev to learn Torah whenever you got a spare moment. In other words, Torah is a very interesting thing. Normally, every mitzvah has got its time and its point in time where you can. Certain mitzvahs have got a space in time, but after a certain time, you can't. For example, the Gemara says that Laila loves Mount Tefillin. Nighttime is already not the time for Tefillin. And Shabbos is also not the time for Tefillin. Shabbos loves Mount Tefillin. In other words, once you go past a certain area of time, it's no longer a mitzvah of Tefillin. It's like that with most of the mitzvahs. Torah is not that way. Torah is Yom Laila, the pasuk in Yeshua, v'hegisa bo Yom Laila. You have to learn Torah the whole time without stop, without pause. You have a chiyuv to learn Torah. So imagine come along and say, but I have to sleep, I have to eat, I gotta earn myself a buck, I gotta have a panos or something. So that, you know what the Torah says about that? The Torah says, yes, we'll permit you to do that. In other words, the Torah gives you, as it were, a permission. But really, when you're doing that, you should really be learning. But the Torah says, okay, we understand your matter. So, as soon as you have a moment where you're not busy with those in your doing, that you're supposed to be learning Torah. So it's like an ongoing thing. And what do they call in the old Lashon? A masmid, A masmid is somebody that's putting down, As soon as he has spell minutes, he's learning something. He's busy. Mela says the Rabbi, it follows then, according to that we have to learn Torah, because Rega Panui. Kivan Shabazeh, Talui Matziyusai, Alidei, Kedova Echad, Imakodipovu. Since we pointed out that he's linked to a Kodipovu through a Kodipovu, also linked with Torah, then by learning Torah, he's meeting up with his real materials, which is being connected with a Kodipovu. Which means that if you don't learn Torah and every time you have an opportunity, you're, as it were, missing out on your own materials. You're not getting up to where you really come from, or where, let's put it in another language, where you really belong. You're like, how's the old expression? Have it, you're there, but you're not there. You know what I mean? Oh, yeah. Evakayam, oh, that's one thing. That's as a word, ragil. That's normal. So he says, Vakayam af oiven ishkashras, yosher imakod, he said, there's another way that you can make a ishkashras with a kodesh, not necessarily through Torah. So he says, Bekat mavua, yadova tamua, yadachoyre, b'maima hazoya hanal. We quoted before the Zoya, they're all Yidden bound up one with the Avesta. So he said it's written over there in the Zoya that Tlas Kishrin Mishkashrin Do Bado. There are three knots. Yeah, they join up one with the other. And he says, what are they? Toira, the soil, Vukuchabriku. And it's written that Yidden, they join up with the Torah, and the Torah joins them up with Kucha Bariku. So now think about that carefully. How many knots do you need to acquire that? Only two. You don't need three. The Yidden join up with the Torah, and then the Torah joins up with the Avesta. That's two knots. It's not three. Got it? Put it another way. Yidden tie themselves up to the Torah, and the Torah ties itself up. Two knots, not three. You got it? So where's the third knot? And what does the third mean? There are three knots. Ella, the Rabbi brings down, it's put down in the big Jerusalem Chassidus from the Rabbi, that there's a third knot that goes directly from the Avesta to Yidden. Not necessarily involving Torah, but as a word, from the other side, down the other way, there's a link directly from the Avesta to the Yidden, not through the Torah. That's a third knot. That's a direct knot between the Yidden and the, it's like the hidden, these big, they got VIPs, the very important people, they have a secret line, they're ordinary farmers, linked up with all sorts of different checks, replacements, that makes another kiss, and they have a secret line that goes directly. There's a secret line directly between the Yidden and the Avesta, which means that even if something is wrong with somebody's connection with the Torah, and he hasn't been keeping the Torah the way he's supposed to, he's nonetheless still got the possibility, and he still is linked with a Kodesh Baruch. It's maybe not openly so, but it's there. And every now and then something can and does happen that will reveal. And so what's going to be with him? He will reveal through the third knot that he's really tied up with the Avesta Be'etzem. So then what are you going to say to him? Sit down for the rest of your life with that secret line? And say, no, now you've got to get busy with Torah. So up till now, you've had a very special line, and Hashem has not cast you out. Now you got to get into the normal state, vertical, normal state. You've got to learn Torah. So he says, L'choira, says the Rebbe, where V'kak mavua, Dvar tamur, L'choira maima zoya. Now, Tlas Kishri, L'choira chiburim shel shleisha devarim, nas alidei shnei keshorim. It's enough to not. According to Paul, kosher matera, vatera Israel. Or the other way around. He said, Madua imkein nema shleisha kshorim. Ela shebe'etzem. Be'etzem means in a very essential, hidden way. Yeshnoi gam kesher shlishi. Im Yisrael ve'akodim Baruch can be over without the Torah in the middle. Yeah? And so he said, what is that? Shaloi alidei Torah. ונמצא שבנויס אברהם עליהו שישראל קודמו לבריאה, Israel קודמו אף לתורה. They're somehow or another higher than the Torah. And therefore, they're linked up with the Avos through a hidden knot, And therefore, we find a very amazing thing. What the Gemara brings down, and it says about, the story with after they conquered Jericho, there was a whole story that her eye, I think it was the oil, After the war against her, the Avos just said you must not take anything from the cherem that was made. It's only for the sake of Hashem. Nobody must take anything from the plunder. It's written that Ayin of Hashem, Ochon, he went and he couldn't avoid it, and he stole a whole lot of things. He hid them away, and Hashem eventually made it public. You know the whole story. Yeah. So he was Chayav Misa, Rahman, for having done that. So the Gemara says that Afal Pi Shechoto Yisrael, that he did a very serious sin, and he's Chayav Misa. But Afal Pi, he's still a Yid. In other words, that even if you don't do what the Torah requires of you, it doesn't stop you being a Yid. You follow? Even if somebody's a Machal Shabbos, what the Gemara says, he's like a goy. He's only like a goy. He doesn't become a goy until day what is Machal Shabbos. He's only got certain halachas that make him something similar to a goy. Or he doesn't actually become a goy. We see from that Yidden are connected up with the Avos, not necessarily through the Torah. There's like a link that a Yid remains a Yid no matter what. You follow? So he's got a third kesher. That's the third knot. And that's like how do you call it, a secret line. To a Kodesh Baruch Hu, that also involves another very interesting thing. Let's say this person has carried out these events. Let's say that he's been Machal Shabbos. Let's say, what sort of an nature does he have? What could he do about it? He can do tshuva. He can do tshuva. Now, if he can do tshuva, that's a sign that he's higher than the Torah. Because the Torah says if you do this, you're Chayav Misa. That's what's written in the Torah. Yeah? If he comes with a hater that he's done tshuva, now he said, but I did tshuva, So they've said, oh yeah, this is one of he did tshuva. Oh, but it's written that he's Chayav Misa. What is that? It is a simon that tshuva is higher than, as it were, the Torah, Shuhu. Even though the Torah has such a inner written, that's another question. But nonetheless, tshuva is higher than this holy. That indicates that you never stop being a Yid, and you have a koya that you can go, as it were, beyond what the Torah said. You follow? And if that's the case, that's a sign that you're prior to the Torah, even though you're linked to a Kodesh Baruch Hu, like Torah is, or you've got, as it were, a default in you, even higher than the Torah. That's much mind-boggling. It's even in a way higher than that. You follow? It's Mitzvah Kodesh Baruch Hu himself. That's the way Hashem wants it. Hashem made it that way. What he always says, no, that's got to do with our year, it's ordinary. So, the third point is all of this that we're learning here, that a Yid is very, very, and that's what the Gemara says, Abu Pishachota Yisrael. assuming that there's some connection. Oh, so the Rebbe brings it down. There's a Yerushalmi, a very amazing Yerushalmi. And the Gemara says over there that if somebody does a chait against the Torah, a serious chait, what's the answer for him? What can we do? So it's written that they asked the Nevi'im, and the Nevi'im said, well, somebody goes against the Torah, Chayav Misa, so good, can't open. Sholul the Torah, yeah, they asked the Torah. Yeah, they went to there was something else in the middle of that, they asked the Torah, and the Torah said, it's serious matter, we have to hear all the Eidim, and we have to be done, and all the details, and it could be that you'll be Chayav Misa. Now it's written that Sholul LaKodesh Baruch Hu. They asked the Eibishter, what do you say, Eibishter? And he said, the Kodesh Baruch Hu said, Ya'aseh tshuva v'yishchapav. Let him do tshuva, and then I will forgive him. The Nevi'im said rightfully, he's Chayav Misa. The Torah said we have to do it in more detail. We could have the Eidim and all. But the Torah also basically reaches that conclusion. You follow? The Eibishter said, no, let him do tshuva, and then I'll fix it. There's a similar, that there's a koyer, that he can go up, as it were, beyond the Torah, Kaviyoko. What's going to be with the Torah? So once he's done tshuva, he's got to come back to the Torah. So that's the ultimate, what we call here, reveal. Well, that's what ultimately the Eibishter wants. Yeah? In other words, that you've got to come back eventually to a Seder, how it should be. And that Seder, how it should be. It's just that you can never be blotted out from being a Yid. Even if the Torah has paskin on something. Yeah, you have this possibility of going directly to the Balamah. And you go directly to the Balamah, to the intervention. Wow. And that's Bikur here. That's what Bikur himself is. That's the mitzvah of Bikur. You are a first fruit. You are beyond everything. And for you, so the Rebbe says an amazing thing. Forgive me, I'm going to call it in a few months. I'm just running out of it. The Rebbe says an amazing thing. That if he said, it comes out, if we examine in the light of everything we said, that what it comes out is that the Yidden are like a value in their own right. The Yidden, it was Kedari, the whole creation, just for them. Even Chas v'Sholem, if for some reason they're not doing what he wants. But nonetheless, they have the way to get to him in this third secret line that remains. It's always there. They're like a value in their own right. They will always be there. That's what the Medrash meant. Yisrael Kodmo Kodover. The word Kodmo means like primordial. Primordial means also beyond time. Always. It'll always be there. So the Rabbi then goes further, and he said, come to it, that's like a yisod for the whole inyan of Torah mitzvah. That's a general thing in the whole creation, and that's a general thing with the whole bris that Hashem makes with the Yidden. That's all, even though he might even punish them. But nonetheless, he, as it were, means the Jewish people, even if he's giving them a punishment, he really means it. It's an absolutely amazing idea. It's mind-blowing. essence, yeah. That's the whole thing. We're talking about the atom. Yeah. If a man, that's the idea of yourself, cosmological. So that's basically the whole idea of the Guru's framework. Yeah, the whole idea of Mashiach and that is the eternity of the Jewish people. And so the Rebbe said, just like the, what do you call them, the Bikurim, they're not really Bikurim unless you take them into the base of Mikdash and you put them in front of the Kohen, then they're Bikurim. Otherwise, they're only just, an idea called Bikurim. Or they should become mamish Bikurim. You've got to take them into the base of Mikdash and plant them in front of the Kohen. So the Rebbe said, we see from that Bikurim have to be in front of the Eivester. And where is the Eivester? In the base of Mikdash. Of a name so that all Yidden belong in the base of Mikdash, in front of the Mizbeah. So which means that even though you might be walking around on Dizengoff Street, I don't know if it's faster than Dizengoff. I hope not. I don't know. Yeah, you might be walking around on X Street. You are walking on 2 feet, but you really belong in the base of Mikdash. That's where you really belong. And not only that, you belong in a kli. You have to put it inside a kli, which means that you can be here and you can live a good life and it's all in Kelim and it all fits together. But really, you belong in front of Hashem and the Beis Hamikdash. If a male, that's the Taika Admatai. As the Rebbe said, therefore it makes sense why we ask Hashem Admatai. Because when are we going to be in our real place? Contrary to the Golas is just it's a helm on the right thing of a Yid. A Yid doesn't belong in the Golas. He belongs in the way, because he's the Bikurim, he's the whole thing. That's the inner of the Golas. So Ramela answer tells the amazing question, Admatai.
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 And therefore, I was part of the Rebbe. I told you guys in Memhay when the Rebbe quoted the Rogachow. Better for bringing last night. I brought it down. And I got the Rogachow, and all of a sudden the Rebbe lifted up his hand. The Rebbe went like that 3 times. He said, the Masa, I was there. I saw it. Moshe, that was his holy fist. And the whole, we're talking about thousands of people with it. Amazing. Well, that's amazing. Because that's where we are, the etam. That's where we really belong, like you wrote the word etam. So the very etam, all Yidden belong. And therefore, even if a Yid will say to you, he doesn't, he's not particularly worried about it right at the very moment, but he really does belong there. Even he does belong there. And that's the whole thing of the Rebbe with all the Mivtoyim. That the Rebbe made all the Mivtoyim, that you got to bring in to realize and you matliya. I remember in the old days when I used to go Mivta Tuvin. When I was young, I used to go, not so young even, I used to go on Mivta Tuvin every Friday. I went out, even though I was tired from all the work in Yeshiva. And we used to go down the end of B'nai B'rach and over in there's a huge Eged like station with all the Eged buses and all the drivers, and they come in after they finish their trips, and they take they would be like careful, they're huge, they drink coffee and they eat all sorts of things, and they refuel, and workers get to work on the buses and clean them out and the whole thing. Big place. We used to go down there, and that was one of our main areas, and we catch all these guys when they go into to get the coffee and the cakes and all that good Sachen. And you'd be amazed. They'd say, oh, sure, oh, yeah, and they'd leave their cake behind you, and then, it's amazing. So I would say to you, what's about the coffee? They said, there's time for that later, Yeah. So what is that indicate? That even Lamata here in the Elam Apira, in the whole he realizes that he also belongs in front of Hashem. And that's the Avis, that's the Rebbe's Miftoim. And he said, the Rebbe brings out the essence of a year, where he really should be. The Rebbe brings it out Lideko. So, Omen Kain Yerotzen.
Amen. Amen.
So I understand you brought some Babaisim.
It's in honor of your Shiur. It's in honor of your Shiur.
Oh, thank you. Because this is probably your Rebbetzin made this.
Excuse me?
Your Rebbetzin made this. Huh?
Yes.
Yes, I've tasted before. In the Pneumatic Dog, you bought a few times.
Yep.
And she also makes
Yes.
all sorts of
Cheesecake. Thank you.
Welcome back.
Listen, guys, I highly recommend it.
Nay.
It's a secret, that's why.
This is,
And the two people at the same time.
this is my recommendation.
You have wine? There's more wine. A fork. Who ever heard of such a thing?
Yes, I did, that's why I came, I read it. I was bringing many bottles of wine home from the Artery Wine Shop. And I tried, that's why I wanted to bring this much wine, I had one.
Where's that? Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam v'arei et Gafne. You found the phone. Was it downstairs where you made the coffee for Rabbi? No. I don't know what happened. But you got it back.
Little angel returned. So we're walking down that way towards the Nidagara, towards the son's lane. And the red kid comes to don't, and the woman's going, don't do this, dangerous. I said, why? What's the big deal?
Not easy to do. Oh, please.
So I walk in.
Delicious.
Time.
On the rock.
Yes.
Delicious.
So Belgian shops. Wow. We opened a new place, it's very nice.
Time, we gotta tell her, it's amazing reviews here.
Give him a fork.
Never trust a chef who doesn't eat his own food. You're not eating your wife's food? Oh, okay. Just want to, good, I want to make sure. Will you give the person a couple of slices or Gafne?
Amen. Boy, 3 o'clock.
I'm up for sure. Rabbi. Yes, you're right. I had to buy my wine for Shabbos and for Rosh Hashanah.
Half a year.
Now we understand the Gemara, as the Gemara says, the Gima should be covered. Great is the chew of the mouth, that brings people close one to the other. Gedela, the Gima should be covered. If you want to get close with somebody, don't just talk to him, give him a little something sweet, and that's talk to him. I was just saying that now we understand the Gemara, that the Gemara says, Gedela the Gima Shemikare.
Yeah, thanks for you. We're connected to be a good guest.
As the Gemara it says, Gedela the Gima Shemikare. The Gima in the Gemara means like a bite chew, when you chew something.
Yeah.
The great is the Gima that it brings kesser between people.
Yeah.
When you eat something together with somebody, you become.
Yeah.
That's why it is that our sages were goyim when they get to a goy. You're not allowed to eat certain things from goy. So you could bring that.
Become friends.
No.
It's easier to be friends.
This was made with spelt flour.
My maid took the day off.
Spelt, it's not wheat.
Very good. Homemade?
I said, my maid took the day off.
Therefore, a Fabringer was always connected with, Mashke and Vice and because the whole idea of Fabringer was to lead to after united decisions and united, how to call it, union between the Etzem of Yidden. But that was connected with a little something. And Gafne says to be. And I remember many occasions after a Fabringer on Shabbos, the Rebbe would have a plate of mazenas in front of him. But he himself would only take a little bit of it. But when the Fabringer was completed, the Rebbe would lift up the whole plate and he would give it to Moshe Yeruslavsky. There was a Yid that he founded the had no Tzedek. His name was Moshe Yeruslavsky. I knew him very well. He was at one time almost a neighbor of ours in Bnei and the Rebbe helped him very much because he started off the whole idea of the no Tzedek as a whole organized a mivtah in every Tishrei by the Rebbe. And he worked on it with unbelievable courage. And he wasn't such a young man. So the Rebbe, at the end of a Fabringer on Shabbos, and you got this big plate of mazenas covered with a little mapa in front of the Rebbe. The Rebbe would also lift it up and look for him, and he would stand always just behind the Rebbe at the Fabringer. He stood just behind, and he would step forward with great zrila, and the Rebbe would give him. And that was for all the Urchim, that they should make another Fabringer, and they should have that. The Rebbe would say that the Fabazin, that's an Indian in the Fabringer. It's necessary for there to be a Fabazin. And I remember I saw him many times. I would step forward, the Rebbe would give him the whole plate. And there was one or two times when, for certain reasons, it was like in the middle of the year and he wasn't there. He used to come for late Elul, for Tishrei, stay after Tishrei, is the Rebbe would leave his plate on the table, and he would leave the ring. So in Lubavitch, there was no, what do you call it, Shirayim, you know that. But people, once the Rebbe left, people would jump up onto the table and grab a piece of mazanas, you understand? They would, you know, grab, put it in their pocket and eat a little bit. They would even, you know, push one another and stood very powerfully to get to this plate of the mazanas, you know. Yeah, I saw it many times. Yeah. And once in the latter years, not in the early years when I used to go to the, was around about Hay on that time. It was already later in the picture. I started off going to the Rabbi talking Tavo. So I'm sitting where I was sitting, and I'm sort of I'm doing my nail, I'm listening to what the Rabbi says, but it was like between Sichot, and when they were singing, the Rabbi used to say Lechem to people, you know that. The Rabbi would look at all sorts of, but you had to get yourself a glass and get a bit of wine. It was mostly wine, but if I bring it, and say Lechem to the Rabbi. And at that particular point, I wasn't doing that. I was sitting. I was paying attention. But I thought maybe later, I was a bit embarrassed to say Lechem to the Rebbe. The truth is, but people used to do it, many people. So I'm sitting there, all of a sudden, the Rebbe sort of looks down in the direction where I was sitting. So normally, when that happened, everybody thought, well, the Rebbe's for sure not looking at me. So everybody would turn around, and they would all look, at somebody else, thinking that the Rebbe was looking at somebody else. So, the Rebbe sort of looked down, and Mami's, I could see that his holy eyes were Mami's coming in my direction. But I found it hard to believe that he would be looking at me, So I sort of, like this, he must mean, people around me. Then all of a sudden, the Rebbe sort of made with his eyes might say, no, I mean you, So I had no ability to avoid the situation. So all of a sudden, the Rebbe looks at me, and he goes like this. Now that means that you've got to say Lechem on a big question. You're saying on an ordinary question. And the Rebbe went like that. He's totally him. Yeah, like that. That means you got to say Lechem for a big. So when I get a big cup, all the tables were covered with these little cups. So where do you get a big cup? So there was some bochum was standing behind me. I'm sort of pushed in to this table, and I had all these kufis behind me, and they were younger, bochum, and they all of a sudden got a glass like this, I don't know, maybe they had it in a bag, and I don't know what. All of a sudden, somebody pushes this glass down in front of me on the table, and he had a big container of wine. But I'm down here and he's back here. So how's he going to get the wine into my cup? And the Rebbe's sitting there, the Rebbe's watching him. So there's no time, So what did he do? He just leaned over with and he just went like that. And he poured, wine. The wine just came down, filled up the cup. But it also, it sort of made a whole sea of wine on the table, You just went, he had this big can of wine, and he went like that, over the shoulders of the people who were sitting near me. We all got there splashed with wine. So the Rebbe sort of watching. So of course the Rebbe didn't mean to fill up the course, So I looked at the Rebbe directly, and I held up the big glass very high to make sure it was a big glass and it was full. And I said L'chaim. So then the Rebbe noted what he said. And he said L'chaim. But then the Rebbe looked carefully to see if I would drink the whole glass. So you have to be careful. You couldn't just, be yoitzer. So I had to go like that. And so I had to empty I emptied the whole glass. Then the Rebbe looked elsewhere. But until then, the Rebbe was watching. Therefore, there was no time. Couldn't hold the Rebbe out. And so he just landed like that. So, very interesting. The Rebbe knew exactly what was going on. There were thousands of people sitting, but the Rebbe knew exactly what he had to do with everyone. Thousands of people. The Rebbe was amazing control of every individual. What's called flow upra. Flow of upra.
And what all the brachas say.
Flow upra. Upra. There we go back to upra.
No.
I'm going the Rebbe said, I've never, anything of the Rebbe I don't forget, but it's very hard to take that out of your mind. The way
Raspberry. Makes your own raspberry filling.
Rebbe said you got to turn the world upside down. Care and develop. There we are, guys.
Yeah.
Wonderful time that is, we're all Lifnei HaKol, and that's where we really belong. So every union, the Rebbe points it out, let's see, that every union in our lives is significant and important. We shouldn't think that, this day, what's the matter? This is an hour, what's important? Everything is important. And the Rabbi said that we see it in the Gola, that sometimes you can say something, do something, and you sit just at the right thing at the right moment, and you can have an effect for years and years on that person. And the other way is also true, that's for sure. If you don't pay careful attention, you can do damage. Yeah, damage. One time. So the Rebbe said that's because everything is important. Everything is in front of Hashem Elokeinu. So that's where you really belong. So you're really inside the base of Mikdash, even though at this particular moment you may not be there, but that's where you really are. Yeah. That's pretty hefty going. So that's slichas, slichas. Shabbos, my Shabbos and slichas. If we say to the Eberster, we want to go back to be in front of you, And so let's reach an agreement that finish with the goals, We've been a little bit, not to say that, but we belong to you, we're your people. You should realize that there were some sitting that they never said slichas, because they timed it that the Baal Shem Tov and the Rebbe Rashab once spoke about the Baal Shem Tov wasn't in favor of too many prayers that spoke about sin and all that thing. He wasn't in favor. Because the Baal Shem Tov's whole Torah was based on simcha. The whole, the simcha. No matter anything that can affect the simcha of a year, even if it's a holy thing, it's not in our generation, and it's not on anymore. No. Yeah. The Mendel Mikots, the famous Rebbe Mikots, he didn't say sleep. That measures up sleep. And it's much more that the Rebbe Rashab on a tiny tzibur, he personally didn't say the sleep. And Bekoishi, he would say the slichas between Motzei Shabbos and Rosh Hashanah, this year. But any other slichas, he didn't say. No. So of course, it wants us to the Rebbe, why in the shul, in the Baris, they say slichas. And they notice that the Rebbe doesn't, So the Rebbe said, I mix into Gaboyas, I mix into, that's their in, So he didn't ask me, so I don't mix in it. That's what the Rebbe should answer. He mixed me into Gaboyas. If they would have asked me, well, I might have told them. Otherwise, I'm not going to mix in. Yeah.
What was the origin? When was
Time is Siva.
No. That's
Not
about
saying
something else.
sleeper.
Something else.
Only talk.
No, actually, when was the origin of having a Fabrengen on Shabbos Slichas night?
Shabbos, that.
How long ago was the origin? Who started that?
Having a Fabrengen before Slichas Motzi Shabbos.
Who started that?
Well, that's apparently an old custom. I don't know who actually founded the custom, but the Rebbe spoke about that on several occasions. The Rebbe. And the Rebbe once said something a little bit not according to his usual line. The Rebbe wasn't in favor of taking Mashkinot.
Yeah.
But the Rebbe said that they used to bring before Slichas, and sometimes the Chassidish Chazan, that he was going to have to go to the Omer, they say with a Nigun, it's a whole big thing.
Yeah.
So the Chazan, when he would go to the Omer, he would wobble like that. No, the other part time. Because he'd been saying the Chazan. Oh, the Rebbe mentioned.
I think it's a very good Fabrengen.
That's unofficial. And it was they used to bring before the sleepers. And then the truth is that there was a younger chevra about those that could manage it. They used to dance for hours after the sleep.
After?
Yeah. After the sleep. But not just for a couple of minutes, for hours. We're talking about hours. So, not just we're talking about, something really, massive. So in Tomchei Tzemach, by the river, that's what they do. They dance for the Bochum and Tsfat after the street. Out of order. But before that, the big Mashpiyim, the big, the big Rabbonim Mashpiyim, they used to bring. I'm finishing now, I don't really quite anymore. Although once when men were court together, they tell a sort of anecdote. Once when men were court together said he's going to say slichas. And this made a huge, because in that area they didn't say ever slichas. So all the booksellers in the town all got sold out because they had to buy up slichas, and all these people are buying slichas, and everybody's saying, the coach is going to say slichas, everybody got all ready and everything like that. They'll come in, there's this huge crowd, and the whole shul, also the coach comes in, he walks over to the omelet, goes over to the omelet. And everything's quiet, and you got all the people with their slichas, and they're all ready, All of a sudden he says, "L'chu Hashem hatzeduk." That's the first thing. Then he paused, and everybody's got. And he says, Emma. And he said, "V'runi boishas haponim." And he said, Emma, bye everybody. And he took his sitter, the people standing there, it's all ringing in their ears, Lord no basis upon him. Emma. That's what they tell that story about them. As the Kotzke said, he said one slicha. Everybody had he said, "L'chu Hashem hatzeduk." Yeah. Once upon a time I began by
Chaim.
So, as the old saying, have it in English, I don't know what you guys say, but I'm going on. It is open, so it's a good sleep.